Hello and welcome. Hi, I'm just doing a video tutorial for the Zoom class that was held on Sunday the 13th of September, and this is what we made, was a spinning pinwheel. So the idea is that this bottom layer here spins, but the sentiment stays in place, and it's all held together with a brad. And because we've used a brad, you don't get to see that the other half of that brad on this side because we've hidden it underneath this paper layer. So I'll just go through some of the supplies that you'll need to make this. Very, very simple, and you don't need a lot of material. So the base card I've made is from a 6 by 12 sheet, just folded in half. We have the mat and the layer here. This piece here is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. This is all in inches. The mat layer on top of that is 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. And then we, for the pinwheel itself, we have two pieces that are 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. And then we have mat layers on top of those, which are 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then we have the little pieces that make it look like the pinwheel, and they're 1 1/2 by 1 1/2. We need 8 of these pieces, but you actually need to do them so you've got like one coloured one and then one plain one, and it gives you a better pinwheel look. You could do them all in the same colour, but if you have a variant colour and one that's darker than the other, you get more of the effect of the pinwheel. So I've got 8 of those in my 4 in my plain, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use this stripy side or I'm going to use this side here. I'll decide that when I put it together. And then I've just got the same sentiment. You can make this any way, you know, any sentiment that you want, and then it's all held together and the sentiment sits on top with a little brad. Now it does work a little better. A brad is just a split pin where you split out the ends of them. It does work better if that is flat, but you can work with something that has a little bit of a dome, but a flat brad would work really best here. And then I'm just going to attach my sentiment onto the brad with some glue dots. I'll be using glossy accents pretty much for most of it, and to attach them I'll just use some double-sided tape. All right, so let's get started. So you basically build the pinwheel first. You can't attach your mat layers onto your base card until you've got all of that other stuff in there. Now, if you have we have to be able to make a hole in here as well. And I do that with my little multi-tool. I love this. It has 4 attachments that you can put onto this, but I'm just using the pokey side of that to be able to poke into it and then dig around in it and make that hole a bit bigger, because you generally can't get a hole punch with a big enough piece here to be sliding up, you know, from here into here. It's just, you know, it's too small. You don't have enough room. It would work okay though with an eyelet maker, the manual eyelet makers, where you have a little punch and you punch into it. That would work fine as well. But I just stab mine essentially and then just work around in that hole. So just fold your card base as you would normally and put it aside for now, because we don't actually need that for the moment. You can attach your layers together, but we can't put them onto our base card as yet because we need to be able to hide the brad in here first. So go ahead and attach those on anyhow that you want. I'm using double-sided tape for mine, and these, you know, these mats and layers, there's no weight attached to these, so using, you know, however you normally attach, I just generally use double-sided tape and fling a little bit in the center there. If glue is your go-to, then just glue them on. There's no right or wrong way there. I just prefer double-sided tape. And when you're layering them up, you're just going to get a nice little border around on each side. Just put that aside for now, don't attach it on, and we'll build our little pinwheel. So essentially these are just the base, and then you have the layer that sits on top of that. You attach those two together, and then you attach them on to them there, making that base of the pinwheel. So going ahead and attach those. Again, I'm just going to use double-sided tape. It's just my go-to and preference for these sort of things. I just use tape. It doesn't need anything in the middle. It's going to all be held together in the center with that brad. And when you're poking the hole into your pinwheel, you are going through 4 layers, so you do need to give it a little bit of pressure. The mat that I'm working on is a self-healing mat, so I'm going to press into that, so it doesn't matter that I put a hole into it, it will heal itself over again, and that's what they're designed to do. So they're really good. These mats that we have at Kazaz have inches on one side and centimeters on the other, and it has all the grid lines on it, which means you can use your grid lines to line up stuff as well, which I find really handy. And they're actually the inside measurements around the edges is 12 inches, but the actual mat itself is 13. So you can, if you're a scrapbooker, they're perfect to lay a layout inside, and you've got the measurements that sort of sit outside of your 12 by 12, which is really fabulous. Now, when you put these together, I line them up on my mats here, and I'm just sort of trying to line up so it's got even a line here, and then that allows me then when I put this piece on, I sort of know where I need to be. I can use the grid lines to line up everything, and then once you're happy with your grid lines, and you're sort of just aiming to have, you know, even spaces. Now remember, you're only going to need to attach the center of this, so don't go and put tape on all over the whole lot. You just need it in the center. I am just going to glue this on just for the ease of, because I only need the center piece to be done. And then I just use my grid lines here to line everything up. Whoop, it's too far down. And I'm just trying to get the even, you know, and the same amount of evenness on each side. And then that forms the basis of your pinwheel. Now, to construct your pinwheel, all of these pieces get placed on, and you're going to fully put them on except for the first piece, and you're lining them up into these corners. This first piece, you only want to adhere onto this side here, because you've got to have this side up for the very last piece to come in. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So each time you put a piece on, move it around and then work into the next corner. Now this is where I'm not sure I'm going to use the stripes, so I may do this twice, but you're essentially just trying to get a nice even border all the way around. So you just keep working around, putting these into the corners. You can move this around if you want. For now, I'm just going to leave it because I want to just see what this looks like. You want to keep, if you're going a directional paper, make sure your directional is in the right, you know, it stays in the same direction. Just alternating your colours along. And then, like I said, this last piece, it has to be able to tuck in under this piece here, which is why we only adhere it on half, and then when you've got that last one in place, you finish adhering it. And that's what you're going to you're kind of going to end up with. And I don't actually like the stripes. It's not doing it for me. So I'm going to change that. So now that I know that, these pieces, I will glue them down because I know that I'm definitely going to use this solid side. So like I said, when you do your first piece, on this first one only, you only need a little bit here on this side here. Don't go over that halfway mark because you've got to be able to tuck in on that last piece, and you will glue that rest of that down when you get around to the finished side. And then just keep turning around, and it goes into each corner, making sure you've just got that little border. So see how I'm coming into the corner here? Then bring it round, and then we'll be working into this corner next. Make sure that you alternate each of these. Oops, I'll just put that back in the view there. And if you're lining up with the same little margins on each side, you'll find that these will all sort of line up the same as well. So just keep turning your page around and adding on the next one. You can make them all one colour, but you do lose the effect of the pinwheel by doing that. And it doesn't, you know, it still looks good, but if you're trying to get a pinwheel effect, it does work better with you know, different colours, and one of those colours being a light colour. And that's what, you know, what gives you that pinwheel effect. So just go around and put all of those 8 pieces on, alternating your colours. Nearly done, 2 more to go, alternating colours. This is a really quick card to put together, and like I said, you could use this, I'm doing a Christmas theme only because when I'm making it this time of the year, I'm trying to get my Christmas cards done, so this adds another Christmas card. But these make, you know, really good birthday cards. You know, instead of Merry Christmas here, you could put like a 60 or a 50 or, you know, whatever you want onto that. All right, so now this is the last piece, and see how we left that up, like we didn't, if you don't glue that piece there, when you go to, you'll be able to tuck this one into that now, and then we can glue that first one fully down then. So this just sort of tucks in, I'm just going to bring it backwards here, and this one just tucks in like all the rest, leaving that little border around. And then once you've got that in place, then you can finish off adhering this one down. And that's your pinwheel. Now, what you do get left with, you'll see that they don't all join in the middle, but you will, your brad and your sentiment is going to take the place of that. And see how, because we've got alternating the red and the light color, you can really see the pinwheel. It does make a big difference to do your pinwheel in alternating colors. Right, so the next step is to get the brad in. Now, the trick with this brad is you do not want the brad to sit all the way down. You actually want your brad to sit up, and that's what makes this bottom piece be able to move and the top piece doesn't move with it, is making sure that brad sits up a little bit. So like I said, all I do is I just start off with a little, I poke it through. You are going through 4 layers, so it is a bit of a task. And then just work that hole because you want this to move freely. You don't want this bottom piece catching on that brad. So just what I do is I just keep poking around with my little pokey tool and make a nice big hole so that when you put the brad in, it's not going to catch. Just twist it round. You just got to keep filling with this little bit here because you want this to move freely. You don't want it sticking. So just move that round in there, get that hole going. You don't obviously want it so big that your brad falls through it, but you do want it big enough that your brad is not catching on it. You actually want it to be able to move around. Now, once you've got to that spot there and your brad moves in there freely, you need that first batten layer that we had. because we now need to pierce a hole through that layer. So just put this one on, and you just want to make it, you know, so that it's sitting in the center. And once you're happy with the alignment and you've got it all nice and centered, just pierce through here, and you're going to make another hole. Now that one doesn't need to have a big hole in it. It's just this top one. You need to make sure that that you've got enough gap in there that this pinwheel will spin nice and freely on the card. All right, so that should be fine. Brad goes in nicely. You can feel it spinning okay. Now this is where you need to pay attention. And I've just bought in a pair of tweezers that are those reverse tweezers. So when you squeeze to open, and then whatever it holds onto, it holds onto. And the reason I've done that is because I need to be able to get up underneath this brad, and the depth of my tweezers is going to prevent it from wanting to attach the paper really tightly. This is where you need to be that room to make this pinwheel spin freely. You don't want to squish it all the way down on your paper. So normally, like when we attach, we would put the you know, we would attach them nice and tight together, and you'd have a lot of the post sticking out here. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to just put my tweezers, lift that up a little bit. I'm going to put my tweezers in here so that it prevents it from sliding down. It gives me a gap. And so now I've got less here in the back, but that's okay. It will still all just fold down. You'll just have a little bit less in your in the posts to bring down. But I don't want it all to sit flat, otherwise it won't spin. Right, so once you flatten that down, so I've still got, you can see, I've still got room in under here where this is there, so that brad sits out, and that's what you want it to do. You want that brad to sit out. So what it will do is this will spin nice and freely. Now, once you get to this point, you can now attach this layer onto your base layer. What I did in the other one, in this green one here, I also put tape over the top just to stop that brad also from moving around on me. And it's just extra security for that brad to sit there. And then I just, as with all the other layers, I just use tape to tape them on. And then just layer this layer onto your card front. And unless you've got directional paper, right at this moment, it doesn't matter which way your card opens, but as good practice, I always just check that, because as you know, as card makers, we've all put those card fronts on backwards. So then and then just push this down in here, and that's just pushing down. And like I said, what you're aiming to get is to make sure that brad has space. And then I just use a glue dot because I have a nice flat head on my brad, and I just put a glue dot on there, and these are sticky as, so that will secure it nicely. And then I'm just going to put my sentiment on here, just centering it in there, and then it will stay still, and my pinwheel moves. And like I said, the trick to making sure your pinwheel moves really freely is making sure that brad sits up. So that's the spinning pinwheel. Very, very easy. And like I said, you can make that in any genre you want. That could be a birthday card, it could be a baby card, it could be anything. If you didn't have a flat brad, you could just leave it as the pearl and then put your greeting down here. There's lots and lots of ways to do it. Thank you for joining me. I hope this tutorial is a help to you. Just leave a comment if you need to know any more information. Until next time, bye.